The first time I saw the hotel room number pop up again, room 614, the Laurentian, I already knew what I was going to do. Still, I stared at the message for a long time. There it was, in the middle of a bland text from my wife, running late, might crash at the office. Don't wait up. She hadn't worked late a single Friday in 3 months. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked back into my office, poured myself a 2-finger glass of Yamazaki 18, and sat down in front of my laptop. The room was dark except for the desk lamp and the ghostly light of my screen. I opened the email draft that had lived in my drafts folder for over a week. All the attachments were there: screenshots, bank statements, DNA results, surveillance photos. And the video. Every time I hovered my finger over the mouse, something stopped me. Not doubt. Just the weight of what would come next. I've designed bridges that span the length of rivers, skyscrapers that defy the wind. Calculations, models, flawless execution, that was my world. But nothing I had ever built came close to the precision it took to destroy a life. I only needed to press send. That's when the study door burst open. My daughter, Maya, stood there, wild-eyed, mascara streaking down her face like she'd run through a storm. She held her phone in both hands, shaking. "Dad, what is this?" Her voice cracked. "Aunt Delia just called," she's sobbing. "She says you're sending things. Private things. Of Mom. She says people are seeing stuff they shouldn't. Is it true?" I looked at Maya and saw someone else's eyes looking back at me. Not mine. Not Lucy's. I knew it before the test. But the confirmation still felt like being torn in half. She had her mother's jawline. But her eyes? Those were Ethan Granger's. The man I used to call my best friend. The man she calls Uncle Ethan. I finally spoke. "Maya, your mother made her choices. I'm just shining a light on them." She slammed her hands on the desk, knocking over a photo of the 3 of us in Switzerland. That trip. Of course. Ethan had tagged along. Like he always did. She shouted, "You're ruining her life." "Room 614, I said quietly. She froze. "What?" "Laurentian Hotel. Friday nights. 5 years, same room." I turned the laptop so she could see. Tonight was no different. Her face changed then. From anger to confusion. Then to fear. I opened the drawer and pulled out 2 papers. A birth certificate. And a lab report. Maya stared at them. "No. Ethan's her biological father. We confirmed it last week. You're not to blame. None of this is your fault." She backed away. Her hands trembled as she picked up the papers. "No. No, this isn't." "But it was. You were never just a pawn," I said. "You were their entire game." The room went quiet. Then her phone rang. "Mom," she whispered before I leaned forward and pressed the speaker button. "Jason." Lucy's voice was shrill, feral. "How dare you? How dare you leak private images? I'm filing for divorce and you better believe I'll take half of everything." "Ethan and I, You and Ethan," I interrupted, "will finally be free to be the couple you've been pretending not to be since before Maya was born. But first, why don't you explain how you used my firm's insurance to fund Maya's education while siphoning client payments through shell accounts for Granger Capital? You have no proof." "Don't I?" There was silence on the line as I opened the spreadsheet. Offshore accounts. Shell corporations. Audio files. Surveillance footage. I'd spent 6 months gathering it all. And that USB drive in my safe? It was just the beginning. 3 hours later, the silence in the house was suffocating. Maya hadn't come downstairs. Her door remained shut. Once, I heard muffled sobbing behind it. That sounded more damage to me than anything Lucy or Ethan ever managed. I wanted to knock. To say something. But what do you say when everything someone believed about their life has just been shattered? Instead, I sat in my office, nursing another glass of whiskey, staring at a wall lined with degrees, photos, and blueprints, things that once meant success. Now, they just felt like lies in a frame. At exactly 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A name I hadn't seen in nearly 5 years, Caroline Roth. "My sister." Message? "We need to talk. Tomorrow. I have something. It's about Lucy. And Ethan." She was the only one who ever truly hated Lucy from the start. They clashed like oil and water always did. I thought it was just personal chemistry. But maybe Caroline saw what I didn't. Maybe she always did. I typed one word back. "Come." By noon, Caroline was sitting in my office, hair tied back, face harder than I remembered. She dropped a thick manila envelope on the desk and looked at me like she hadn't slept in weeks. "I should have told you earlier," she said, unzipping the folder. 5 years ago, I followed them. Lucy and Ethan. Singapore. I blinked. "What were you doing in Singapore?" "You invited me." "You don't remember?" she asked, half laughing bitterly. You got food poisoning and canceled the Beijing leg of your tour. Lucy said she'd go on without you to scout locations for Granger's expansion fund. Said she'd handle meetings in Hong Kong. Said she was doing it for your business. She pulled out the photos. Lucy. Wrapped around Ethan. Lobby of the Four Seasons. Kissing at the bar. Laughing like teenagers sneaking off for prom night. Timestamped. 2:43 a.m. She told me she was sick in the room, I muttered. Caroline nodded. Yeah. Sick with lust, maybe? Not flu. I stared at the photos. She said we were in a rough patch. That she'd leaned on him emotionally. That it was one night. A mistake. Over. She swore to me. She lied, Caroline said bluntly. I didn't believe her, so I started digging. I hired a guy. PI in London. We kept going. She pulled out another folder, this one filled with printed bank statements, asset trails, wire transfers. They've been moving money through shell firms. Using your firm's design contracts to justify inflated budgets. Ethan bills project consulting, Lucy siphons client data from your home office. Every time you left your laptop open, she copied things. Something burned inside my chest. Not rage. Not yet. Just a cold, precise fury. Like steel cooling before the cut. They used your blueprints, Caroline continued, to build fake developments that never broke ground. They even ran money through the Children's Cancer Center you helped fund. That stopped me. The Sterling Pediatric Center? Caroline nodded. They skimmed over $2 million from the donation pool. Ethan's firm handled the fund dispersal. Lucy wrote the internal memos. It's all in here. I closed my eyes. The Sterling Project was my personal passion, designed pro bono to help kids like Sammy Tran who had leukemia and needed custom-built environments for treatment. I remembered Sammy's mother hugging me when we broke ground. Her shaking voice thanking me for giving their son a future. I had no idea my wife had used that trust to fund her affair partner's embezzlement. That night, Maya appeared in the doorway again. She looked older. Like she'd lived a decade since yesterday. I went, she said quietly. To the hotel? She nodded. They were waiting in the restaurant. Dressed like nothing was wrong. Like it was just a Friday night dinner with family. They told me you'd known for years. That you were just angry because Mom finally had the courage to leave you. My jaw clenched. Then Ethan offered to pay for college. No strings, he said. But Mom made it clear, if I didn't testify against you in court, the money would disappear. She looked down, eyes burning. They tried to buy me. What did you say? She swallowed hard. I asked about the medical bills. When I was 12. Pneumonia. Ethan said paying them was the best investment he ever made. Mom didn't even flinch. She just said I should be grateful. That everything they did was to give me a better life. I stepped forward, unsure if I should hug her, stay back, let her choose. Then she whispered, is it true? Did they steal from the Sterling Fund? I handed her the file. She read in silence. 1 page. 2. Her fingers began to tremble. Sammy's mom works nights now, she said. She told me they had to pull him out of private therapy. That their donations dried up. I thought it was just mismanagement. She looked at me. And for the first time in days, I saw not just pain, but resolve in her eyes. I want to help. Maya. No. I know things. Passwords. Conversations. Voice memos. I've overheard them talk about Cayman transfers. I know where Lucy keeps her burner phone. I looked at her, really looked. And saw something new, the fire of justice, burning where trust used to live. Once we start, I said, you won't be able to unknow what you find. You sure? She nodded. They used me. Lied to me. And they hurt people. Kids. They don't get to walk away from that. I walked to the safe, retrieved the USB drive I'd been stockpiling for months, and handed it to her. Then let's burn it all down. By Monday morning, the evidence was neatly packaged. Maya helped sort audio files, organize email threads, and log timestamps on the surveillance footage. She barely spoke unless it was relevant. No tears. Just steel. At 8 a.m. sharp, I met with Laura Benning, Lucy's attorney. She was waiting in my firm's conference room, poised, calm, until I slid the USB drive across the polished table. What's this? She asked, lifting a brow. Proof, I said flatly. Of Lucy's crimes. And Ethan's. Laura inserted the drive into her laptop and clicked through the folders. When she hit the first audio recording, Lucy's voice, clear as day, describing how she'd copied confidential client data from my home office, her expression changed. From detached professionalism to grim recognition. There's more, I said. Wire transfers. Offshore accounts. Embezzlement from a pediatric hospital fund. She didn't speak for nearly 2 minutes. Then this changes things. No. It ends things, I replied. I stood, collected my briefcase. You have until end of week to withdraw all divorce claims. No alimony. No property split. No attempt to touch my firm. If she wants to avoid federal charges, she walks away with nothing. Laura didn't argue. She didn't even blink. She just nodded once. That afternoon, Maya and I sat in the kitchen while I made tea. It was the first quiet moment in days. Do you think she'll take the deal? She asked. I stirred sugar into my cup. Lucy? No. She thinks she's bulletproof. Maya looked up from her phone. Then what? I smiled faintly. Then we show her what a loaded gun looks like. The first shot came not from Lucy, but from the local press. By Wednesday, a reporter from the Ledger left a voicemail asking for comment on allegations of misappropriated client funds tied to Granger Capital and linked charitable organizations. The phrasing was polite, but the subtext was nuclear. I hadn't leaked anything, not yet. Which meant someone inside Ethan's firm had. Desperation makes people sloppy. And terrified people? They talk. By Thursday, the board at Granger Capital had called an emergency session. I knew because Avery Green, one of their junior partners, texted me a single line. He's sweating. They're digging into everything. Lucy must have felt the tremor too. Because that night, she showed up at my house. Not unannounced. She never did anything without control. She sent a polite text. Need 10 minutes. For Maya. I let her in. She was dressed perfectly, of course. Hair curled, makeup subtle, as if we were about to attend a gala, not a reckoning. Where is she? Lucy asked. She doesn't want to see you right now, I said, stepping aside just enough to let her through the door. Lucy paced the living room like it still belonged to her. You didn't have to do this publicly. You could have just let the divorce happen quietly. You mean let you walk away with half my assets and your name intact while you and Ethan drained hospital money into offshore accounts? Her jaw clenched. We built that life together. I gave you Maya. No, I said evenly. You borrowed my name to give Ethan's child a home, then used my business to fund your affair. Her face cracked. Just slightly. A tremor at the corner of her mouth. You think the world will side with you? She hissed. Ethan has friends. Judges. Investors. They don't care about family drama. I walked over to the mantel and picked up a small digital recorder. Clicked play. Her voice echoed, cold and unmistakable. Just use the Anderson kids' story. If they think the investment fund goes to the cancer ward, they won't ask questions. The mother's already desperate. Lucy went pale. I clicked stop. Your voice. Your plan. In a federal case? I don't need the world, Lucy. Just the law. She didn't speak again. She turned and walked out. As the door closed behind her, I knew the next move was Ethan's. And that it would be loud. By Friday morning, my name was trending for the wrong reasons. A leaked internal memo from Granger Capital hit every financial blog by sunrise. It painted me as a disgruntled husband trying to destroy a legitimate firm out of spite. Said I'd falsified documents. Manipulated my daughter. That I was trying to shift blame for an internal audit discrepancy to cover my own mismanagement. It was well-worded, precise, and completely false. But that didn't matter to the vultures. By noon, reporters were outside my firm's building. A few bold ones followed clients into the lobby. My assistant, Claire, buzzed in, "Do you want me to call security?" "No," I said. "Let them watch. They'll have better material soon." Because what Ethan didn't know was that 2 hours before the memo dropped, Dominic Wells, my private investigator, had delivered the final piece of the puzzle. A full forensic breakdown of Granger Capital's shell companies, complete with internal communications and falsified investor statements, including one memo signed by Ethan showing funds being rerouted from the Sterling Children's Center account into a real estate deal in Panama. The memo had been CC'd to Lucy. I didn't leak it. I gave it to the SEC. That night, Maya came downstairs holding her phone. "They're calling you a liar," she said. "There's hashtags." "I know. They're dragging your name through hell." I looked at her. It's not new. People believe what's convenient. They'll catch up. She sat across from me, opened her laptop. "So let's help them. Let's make the truth a little less convenient to ignore." I blinked. "What are you thinking?" She smiled grimly. "We leak our own memo. We send it to 3 outlets. Not tabloids. Trusted, investigative ones. But we didn't just hand over documents. We gave them a narrative." Maya recorded a video. She didn't cry, didn't dramatize. She sat in front of a blank wall and told the truth. How she discovered her mother's lies. How her childhood was a cover for white-collar crime. How her father tried to shield her. and how Granger Capital weaponized sick children to build their empire. Then she said, "I don't care whose blood runs through my veins. Character is a choice, and I choose to stand beside the man who refused to stay silent, even when it cost him everything." It aired Sunday morning. By Monday, Granger Capital's offices were under federal lockdown, and Lucy, she finally stopped pretending. Courtroom 14B was packed. Not with media, not yet, but with lawyers, investors, and former friends, people who used to toast champagne with Ethan and Lucy at charity galas, now pretending they barely knew them. Maya sat beside me, shoulders back, hair pulled into a neat braid. The same determination I'd seen in her when she learned how to ride a bike, now aimed like a blade. Lucy entered first, dressed in cream, heels clicking sharply on the tile. Polished, controlled, her expression calm until she saw Maya. She flinched, just barely. Then Ethan walked in, confident, smirking, like he owned the building, like we were all just characters in a story he was telling himself. I didn't acknowledge either of them. Judge Celeste Marchand entered, a no-nonsense type with a background in corporate crime. Exactly the kind of person I'd prayed for. All rise. The proceedings began quickly. Lucy's attorney opened with a plea for a private settlement, claimed emotional trauma, claimed this entire case stemmed from a bitter domestic collapse. Then my attorney, Julian Thorne, stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply said, "We request to admit exhibits of through F, bank records, internal communications, surveillance footage, and forensic reports compiled by 2 third-party firms and confirmed by federal investigators. All of it outlines a coordinated embezzlement operation led by Ethan Granger and materially supported by Mrs. Lucy Alden." Lucy didn't flinch, but Ethan shifted. A muscle in his cheek ticked. Then Julian played it. A 32-second audio clip. Ethan's voice. Casual. Arrogant. "Just push the Andersons toward the children's hospital pitch again. They've got a sick kid and a fat retirement account. Perfect blend of hope and desperation." And Lucy, laughing in the background, "I'll take care of it. Jason's still out of town. He won't know until the money's long gone." The courtroom went silent. Even Lucy's lawyer sat motionless. Judge Marchand looked at Ethan. "Do you deny this is your voice?" He didn't answer. Then Maya stood. No one asked her to, but the judge let her speak. "I grew up thinking Ethan Granger was my godfather, that he loved me, protected me. I never knew he was using me to make my father trust him. I didn't know he was stealing from sick kids I went to school with." She looked straight at Lucy. "And I didn't know my own mother could lie to me for 18 years and still expect loyalty." Lucy's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Maya turned to the judge. "I'm here of my own will. I have nothing to gain by speaking. But if there's justice, they won't walk out of this room free." She sat down, and the judge said only one thing. "This court sees enough to proceed. We'll be forwarding all materials to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Civil proceedings are suspended pending criminal investigation." And then she looked at me. "Mr. Alden, as for your firm, you're clear. If anything, you're owed restitution. Your transparency has made this prosecution possible." I nodded once. Ethan was stone, like he couldn't process that his narrative had collapsed. "Lucy?" She didn't cry. She just folded her hands in her lap and whispered something only Maya and I could see. "I did it for you." Maya stood and walked out. She didn't look back. The federal indictment came swiftly. 12 counts against Ethan. 9 against Lucy. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. Tax evasion. Theft from a federally regulated health fund. The plea deals they expected never came. The evidence was airtight, the paper trail surgically compiled. Granger Capital collapsed in a week. I watched from a distance. I had no interest in public vindication. That part was never the goal. But watching Ethan walk into the courthouse in handcuffs, no designer suit, no charm, no more power. Yes, I watched. Lucy's lawyer tried once more to offer settlement. Something small. An apology. Discretion. A sealed record for Maya's sake. I told her what I should have said years ago. Lucy forfeited discretion when she weaponized our daughter. She can explain herself in a courtroom. At sentencing, the judge read every charge aloud. Ethan, 14 years in federal prison. Lucy, 7 years. 3 with parole if she cooperated. She did. And yet, the only moment that truly cut was when Maya asked to speak at Lucy's sentencing. She didn't rage. She didn't cry. She simply said, "I forgive you. But I want the world to know what forgiveness doesn't mean. It doesn't mean you get to come back. It doesn't mean you were right. It means I won't carry your shame with me anymore." Lucy sobbed for the first time then. But Maya walked out stronger than ever. It's been 3 years. The city skyline still gleams outside my new office, though the view doesn't matter as much anymore. My firm survived. More than that, it evolved. We launched a foundation in Maya's name, fully funded by the restitution seized from Granger Capital. It now supports architectural scholarships and legal aid for fraud victims. And Maya? She's finishing her graduate degree in forensic architecture. She wants to use design to track corruption in public construction projects. She said she got the idea from watching me put our life back together, blueprint by blueprint. Sometimes we sit in silence on the terrace and just breathe. No lawsuits, no reporters. Just the knowledge that we stood up when it counted. That we chose truth when lies were easier. That we let the empire fall brick by rotten brick and built something honest in its place. Ethan writes from prison now. I never opened the letters. Lucy is out on parole. Last I heard, she's working at a tax prep kiosk in a mall 2 hours north. No friends left. No charity committees. Just time. Time to think. I don't hate her, but I'll never let her near Maya again. Forgiveness has boundaries too. And me? I'm just a man who learned too late what betrayal really looks like. But I'm also the man who turned it into something better. Because when the fire burns everything down, you can grieve the ashes or build again. I chose to build.